Yo YouTube, just a short one for you to summarise my week in terms of my stats. It is now the end of my working day on Saturday 23rd of September. I've had a short day, but I'm almost finished. And let me give my stats for today and yesterday as the whole week. So, I was in the middle of my last video of going to Romford, having picked up a job from Byfleet this morning. That was a 64-mile job which I got for £70, and that was for a car, although I would say really more like a van. And something happened which was unusual at the end of that one, which I'll tell you about. So I delivered these two big boxes and a little box on my sack barrow to the location, and the manager of the place said that the engineer that wanted those items had just gone off for lunch, and the engineer had told the manager that he didn't want them anymore because he'd not got them in time. I think he'd arrived at 1 o'clock and I got there about 2 o'clock. Anyway, so I couldn't quite work out what was going on, or only that the manager didn't really want me to leave them there. So I rang the shipper and explained the situation. The first time I rang the shipper, they were closed. I tried a different option. There's several options. So I pressed the first option number, which I thought was the right option. It said that they were closed. And tried another option. It was connected to somebody. And I spoke to somebody and explained the situation, and they said that ideally, if I can get it delivered, that would be the best thing to do, because then it'd be up to the engineering firm to get it collected and taken away. And so, because I was on site and I knew what the manager was saying to me and their tone of voice, I could reassure the shipper that I could leave them on site if I explained to the manager what was the situation. Because the manager was not trying to be awkward, they were just sort of stuck in the middle of not knowing what to do. So really I would say that in this case, the shipper at the end of the phone, who had nothing to do with this whatsoever in terms of resolving it, there was myself and the manager that were both in the middle of it, who were actually on site and able to effectively make some decisions on site, but weren't the real decision makers. We weren't paying for anything. And then there was going to be the engineer that was on lunch, but was meant to be back ages ago and wasn't back where he was. And then obviously the company the engineer works for, who I think is the customer. So I explained to the manager that ideally I couldn't really take it off, and that really it's up to the engineer to make that decision when he leaves site, because he's off having lunch, and she understood that I was just a middle person. I was a courier, and I didn't know what's in the packages. I think she was expecting some IT equipment. She asked me what it was, and I said I don't know what's in there, I'm afraid. But one of them felt like it could be a computer because it's heavy. The other bits could be anything. So between the two of us, we agreed that I would get it delivered. I got the manager to write on my pod exactly the situation from her point of view, what was going on. So, i.e. that the goods were no longer required and should be sent back. But there's only one piece of paper. So I got her to keep the piece of paper, and I took a photo of that as my pod to put it onto the CX system, and then got that MyCX booking taken off the system, invoiced, and that was done. And so, and the other thing was, if it had been a different day, like not a Saturday, and maybe if it had been I was tramping out, I perhaps would have maybe offered to the shipper, I'll take it back to the collection point, but for the same price. But the problem with that is the place I collected it from, I don't think was open, because when I arrived there was one car, everything else was closed up. It was just the guy I was collecting from, and I think he would have gone by the time I got there. Also, the second problem was it's Saturday, and obviously if I don't get it off my van, it's on my van on Sunday and I'm nowhere near home. And the third problem about all of that is the traffic was a nightmare because it's busy around London. So it took me a good, I would say, 2.25 hours to get from around London because of the traffic. If I'd gone back, it would take me the same amount of time to go back, and then I'd have to have, even if it had been open, then had to get home. It would have been my day ridiculously long for not enough money. So for a load of reasons, neither me nor the shipper wanted to take those parcels away from that site, and the manager was happy to take them with the caveat that she wrote down on the form she didn't need them. And then I left them there. So that, in the end, was that job done. I was then Romford, which is north of London, and I looked at jobs. There was about 3 jobs available, none of which was anywhere near me or going in the right direction. So I just started heading back home. On the way, about an hour and 3/4 away from Peterborough, a job came up going from Peterborough to Spalding, and I was not going to get there in time. It was due for a 2:20 to a 3:10 pickup, and I wasn't going to get there till at the earliest 10 to 4. So I put a bid on of £50. It was a long wheelbase job. It was only about, well, I'll tell you exactly how many miles it was. It was 25 miles. And I put a bid on with a note saying I can get there at 4 o'clock if that's okay by you. It's a shipper I have done work for before, a decent shipper. So I left it in their hands, and then we had a bit of communication, and then they said get back to me, and they job shop with the customer, and then they said it was fine for me to be there at that time as I got straight there. So I got that job. That's £50 at the end of the day. So I picked it up. I had another issue picking it up, which I'll tell you about. And this is something that, if you're new to doing this, please listen carefully, because, I mean, you may not know what I'm talking about, but if I was when I was doing this, I would have wanted to hear this information. So when I eventually got to the pickup point, and the job notes were quite vague. There was no idea of how many pallets or what load it was. All I knew was I was going to deliver to a bakery. So I got to the pickup point, which is a depot, a large depot, and first of all, there's no one there, so I had to try and get someone's attention. Eventually I was directed to go to the office, and I got the paperwork done. The only information that I had was my reg. I had given my reg to the shipper, and they passed it on to the company. So when I gave them my reg, they knew which job I was taking, but I wasn't getting any reference numbers or any idea what I was taking. And then when I came back out, the forklift driver was there ready with a pallet, and it was a different kind of pallet to what I'm used to. It was like blue, and there wasn't the whole thing was blue, so like a moulded pallet shape at the bottom, but it's all part of the same. The load was all part of the same item. And what I've since worked out, because I looked at the paperwork, is that I was carrying eggs, and the thing they were in was a chilled pallet. And there's a forklift driver, there was 2 other guys there. I don't know why there were so many people there. And I just said, oh, hello, that's for me. I said yes, and they said, they were at the back, and I said, how heavy is it? And they said, don't know. So I looked at the paperwork, and it was 1,000 kilograms. Now, if you are new, I learnt this from watching James Fletcher's videos when I first started. I don't think it's very wise to put 1,000 kilograms, a ton, in the back of your van, because all of the weight is then over your back wheels. And the idea is you're meant to spread your load out between the 2 axles, the front and rear wheels. So I knew that I didn't want it at my back, and I asked, I really want this on the side door. And I was in a bay facing forwards with my rear of the van open at the back, but the forklift driver was at the back. And one of the guys there was saying it won't fit. And I looked at the pallet, and it looked like to me a standard size pallet. so 120 by 100 centimeters, and I know that they will fit either way in my side door and back door. So if I just started this job, I'd have just gone, oh okay, and put it in the back and just taken his word for it. But now I've done this for a whole 6 months, I have the confidence to say to him, well no, I think it will fit. Why won't it fit then? And this is what happened. I was waiting for a bit, and my side door was open, but only about halfway open. And he came over and said, look, it won't fit here. And he was pointing at the gap in my side door, which was only half open. So I pulled the door all the way open and said, yes, it will. And at first I thought he was being awkward and sarcastic. But I think genuinely he thought I'd opened my side door fully. But I've got a large van. It didn't make any sense to me. They seemed so confident. Well, this one guy said so confident it wouldn't fit on, and I was thinking I would have been persuaded by that early on in this career. But I've known my van well enough. I know pallets well enough to know they will go on the side. So I said, well, let's try it. So I pulled my van out, put it to an angle. It went on really easily. There was no issue at all. I didn't say I told you so, but I definitely thought it really heavily. And then so I got it on the side, strapped it up, and away I went. Right, now I'm going to tell you now the next thing that happened on my journey, which is me being open and honest, because this is about me sharing with you my real life experiences, and also it's about those people there that are new. If you make a mistake, don't worry about it, just learn from it. Because I've made another mistake, which I shouldn't have done, because this is similar to the previous mistake I made, and I'm a bit confused as to why it happened. I am quite confused about the whole thing, but I'm at least learning from it. So let me tell you exactly what happened. I recently, about a month ago, got 2 retractable straps, and I love using them. They're so neat and easy to pull out. They're rated to a ton, and my load that I had on was a ton. And because I put it on the side door next to the bulkhead, and it was really heavy and right in the centre of my van, I just thought 1 strap over the top would be enough. Now you can probably tell from my preamble that something went wrong with that plan. I was driving steadily, as I always do, from Peterborough up towards Spalding, and on one of the roundabouts that there is, I think it's the A16, I felt the load move towards the door, and I genuinely thought that might go through the door because it's so heavy. It probably moved about 6 inches, and I wasn't going quick, but obviously something happened to the strap, and I carried on driving. I had about 15 minutes left to go to get to the drop-off location, and I thought, well, what am I going to do here? I thought, A, has anything damaged? And I thought, it's highly unlikely because I wasn't going that fast. But I just think I'll stop and check. There's no point. I'm nearly at the location. I'll stop and check when I get there. I can't do anything about it if it has broken. But yeah, so it was the actual pallet was a big blue pallet with a lid on, which was all sealed with cellophane. So anyway, so I couldn't have checked inside. I genuinely didn't feel anything had broken, but I did think, I wonder if that's up against my door now and I can't open my side door, because that's going to be a potential problem. So I got my way all the way to the bakery, and then I tried my side door, and yeah, I couldn't open it. So I went to the back, I got a strap around the bottom of the pallet, and I tried to ratchet with my strap the load just off the door. There was no way that was moving. There was a ton on my board, and I would probably break the D-rings rather than move that pallet. So I gave up on that, and I realised that I could get a strap around it from the back of the van and get the foot driver to pull it away from the door, so that'd be right. So that's what we're going to do. So I got to the end. I explained to the first guy what had happened, and he said the forklift driver would sort it out for me. I then explained to the forklift driver what happened, and he was quite friendly and very helpful. And we tried to pull, he tried to pull the pallet away from the door, away from the side door, from me putting a 2-ton strap around the end, the bottom corner of the pallet out of the back door. But as he pulled it, it wouldn't move, and my van moved. And I knew what happened. It's because it was still strapped. But the problem is, because it moved 6 inches towards the door, I couldn't open the door to release the strap. So the only solution here was to cut my strap over the load, and then hopefully it would move it away from the side door enough to then get in at the side door. He pulled again, and it didn't seem to move, but I thought I'd just try the door, and luckily when I opened the door, the side door, it could open. So we resolved one problem, that was getting the side door open. The second thing was, now my strap that was over the load was I couldn't retract it. I couldn't release it. It was so tight, and it had to be, the tension had to be released somehow, other than the mechanism itself. So the forklift driver had an idea. He said he would get his forks in at the side and lift it up and just push the pallet back a bit, which is, I thought, a brilliant idea. He did that. I got the retractable strap undone, and then he got the load off, no problem. So between the two of us, we got that load off, and I was trying to work out why it moved, and I honestly don't know why it moved, because I strapped it with this one strap very carefully. I mean, not very securely. So I think because there's, I mean, maybe there was, no, honestly I don't know, it's hard. I didn't take a photo either. I think what I have to learn from it is that there's, even no matter how hard you ratchet a strap up, there's always some sort of play in it. When you've got a ton load, if that moves, it's going to take even a small amount of play in the material. So I think to resolve it next time, I'll probably go with a stronger, I'll go for my 2-ton pallet, 2-ton ratchet strap over it, not the 1-ton one for a start. And then I'll probably try securing the bottom of the pallet to my load as well as the top of the pallet. I have done that a few times. I just didn't think it would need on this occasion. But I think what I've learned is, actually, as a matter of course, anything heavy, I should probably attach 2 straps to it, bottom and top, and maybe that'll help. Who knows? I bet to most of you I sound like a right imbecile because it's happened again. But honestly, I put a strap over the top on a cool box pallet. It looked really secure. I couldn't see how it would move, and it did. So yeah, I've learned. I'm still learning. But the point is, if you're new to this and you make a mistake, don't worry about it, just learn from it. And I tend to find that for me, if I make a mistake 2 or 3 times, by the time I've made it 2 or 3 times, I learn from it. I don't always learn from the first time I make a mistake. Which, again, it doesn't make me sound very professional, but it's just being open and honest. Oh dear. Right, so what was I going to say next? Right, if I've done stats yet, I don't think I have. So let's give my stats for the week. It's only been a 2-day week. So let me give you the stats. I've filled up with fuel a couple of times this week, so fuel's going up. So first of all, let me give you, I'm not going to give you the daily one because I'll tell you why. Yesterday I did the one little job to get up towards the northwest and to Wakefield, and I then then delivered my pickups this morning. So technically I didn't finish the job until this morning. So I'll tell you my weekly figures, which is basically the 2 days put together. Okay, so for the last 2 days I have driven 651 miles, 651 miles. I've worked a total of 18 hours and 45 minutes. I have earned gross £505. That was the £70 to get from Sleaford to Sheffield yesterday. And then the £315, 315 to do my 3 pickups and drop off in High Wycombe. And then today I got the first job was £70 going to Romford from a place in London. I can't remember the name. Fleetwood maybe? No, I don't remember get it. It was from Byfleet to Romford, £70, and then £50 to go from Peterborough to Spalding. So quite a lot of dead miles today. So that means that I have spent on fuel £107.33. The average price for fuel this week for me is 16.49 pence per mile I drive, 16.49 to 16.5 pence per mile. And then that means that my net earnings this week for the 2 days I've worked are £398. That's an average per day of £199, and my pence per mile that I've earned is 61.09 pence per mile after fuel, and my earnings after business expenses per hour for those 2 days is £12.68. Now I'm going to go now, but I have got my stats all ready for my 6 monthly sort of recap. And what I've done is I've made I've got a summary of it in the form of my Xero accounting software, which I can show you as a screenshot, and I'll just talk through it. And I'll talk through every single little thing of it. I'll do that probably tomorrow while I'm at home. And you'll then get some idea of the finances of this job for someone starting. There are some caveats, but I'll go through those tomorrow. Right, that's it, I think. I'll get myself home now, and then I shall speak to you tomorrow. Hope you're all well. Hope next week is better for me. Last week of September. Oh, I've got a prediction, by the way. I don't like doing predictions because I think they're pointless unless you really know what you're talking about. I think that Friday of next week might be very busy because it is the last Friday of the month, and it is the last month of this particular quarter. So I'm guessing, well, I'm going to predict that there'll be lots of work wanting to get finished on Friday. We shall see. Right, farewell. What have you learnt today?